CLG, and then Origen taking that win, leading 1-0. And as we break down the game here in Game 1, don't forget you can go over to esl.gg/Amazon IEM, do some shopping while you listen to the insight we give you here on the desk. So, CLG had some explosive moments for sure. I mean, the crowd knows that. People at home watching definitely saw it. They had those aces. They had the team fights. But Origen just in the end pulled through, and they seem to still always have the lead, no matter how good the team fights seem to go for CLG.
You know, when we went into that game, I don't think I've ever seen the Echo versus Cassidy matchup. I wasn't too familiar with it, but I honestly don't think we're going to be seeing it again anytime soon. It looked pretty bad.
Yeah, it did look pretty brutal. And Power of Evil just running all around the map, dominating.
Yeah, just that matchup on paper where you throw out the Q, so the magic damage taken care of, Echo comes close, you have auto attack, and then W is an auto attack reset. I just don't see the way it works. Yeah, maybe you won't die because you can ulti away as Echo, but do you really want to do that? High mobility Castan seems to have a lot of answers to this Echo, and more importantly, you don't lose your tower early. That's usually something you punish Castan with, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, and it was funny because you know, there were matchups that could have been abused here, right? There were matchups that CLG could have won, and they tried really hard, actually. They, got the Fiora and a Gangplank matchup, a matchup we know is very good. Fiora has no laning phase nerfs since the Worlds patch. It was her ultimate on multiple ticks, so whatever. And they even got an early dive on a Soaz. They killed him off, even though he tried to outplay it.
Yeah.
So you have a 1-0 Riven against a 0-1 Gangplank, and then Soaz gets a dive for himself from his team, and then he just snowballs the hell out of control, and no one could ever stop Soaz the entire game, and he, does a lot of the legwork for this game.
And even before the dive, he was keeping even in CS.
Yeah.
Like, whenever I've seen that matchup before, the Fiora just pretty much solo kills the Gangplank over and over again. It looks just pretty brutal, and I think a lot of it's just the wave manipulation, and I don't think that Darshan did a very good job of that.
Yeah, and of course, like you guys mentioned, and Monty was saying at the end there too, I mean, the Kassadin really doing work, and they tried to play that mind game of, all right, you guys pick GP, you're not showing us where he's going, so we're going to pick somewhat flexible top and mid laners, and they were like, oh yeah, well here's Kassadin, who's going to deal with that one? So Power of Evil getting that, most likely going to see either a ban against Kassadin or picks where you would never see Kassadin.
Yeah, just the biggest thing is just how smart Origen is about the game. Like Kassadin, Gangplank, weak in the early game. So what do you need to beat that? Well, you need a really strong top laner mechanically with wave manipulation rather. That's hard to say sometimes. And more importantly, they rotate Nils to the mid lane. He became the wave clear. He became the centerpiece for that Origen lineup, while they put Power of Evil comfortably in the bottom lane, really to start farming up and then start dueling that Echo. And overall, they had very proactive plays too. CLG, whenever they had these really big moments, triple kills, a couple like almost aces, they were never really able to get a big objective off that, because Origen was playing so far forward, so proactive, and I think that's the main difference between these teams.
It's one big strength that Origen had all throughout Worlds, throughout the European LCS, that they still had here, is that they're so good at covering their backsides, basically. When they go for these dives, when XPK, now Power of Evil, runs up the top lane and 3 guys are up there, like, Niels has already pushed down the bot lane and then is there in mid. Or it's amazing who does that if Niels can't do that. There is always someone to pick up the pieces, the entire team rotates over, and these like, people just lock into place, and now you've suddenly got a 3-1-1, and there's still no push to be had.
Right.
And like clockwork, every single time, they're all on the same page. Here we go, someone else comes into the spot, and there's never anything to pick up on the backside.
Also, I mean, on the same point of that, even if they like TP everybody up there to defend against that dive, or they bring people up, and let's say they don't even get the dive off, that means the Sever's going to get mid turret for free. So it's just a really good map play by them.
Yeah, so overall, Origen definitely showing that they are more of the veteran team here for sure. But at the same time, I think, some credit given to Stixxay. He did seem to play a little bit more calculative in terms of when he shows that aggression. Sometimes he did get caught, and they needed to go through that whole Operation Save Stixxay all around the map. Yeah. But overall, CLG is still showing the same hope, but it just isn't enough from Game 1 against Origen.
Well, you see what happens when you're against 5 very good League of Legends players, right? UOL with a kind of a shattered lineup, trying to put the pieces back together.
Yeah.
Jin with, honestly, 3 downgrades from what we saw, like, for most of their summer split lineup. And now you're seeing these players that were in the short-term downgrades. Like, even when CLG announced that who he was coming in, it's like, yeah, we picked Powelter because he was better at the time, but we think this team will grow, right? Like, CLG's like, yeah, we lost Doublelift, but the ceiling is really high. Well, right now, they're just building the house. That ceiling doesn't even exist yet, right? So the individual's getting outplayed, Stixxay screwing up, who he's screwing up. Shocker. Right?
I mean, yeah, it's nothing too terrible against them. It's just it's early.
Right. Yeah, they have a strong foundation. I still have some questions with Hui in the mid lane. Needed to watch more, obviously, give him some time to really judge him, but I don't think, given the picks that they did against the Kassadin matchup, that Kassadin should be allowed to average like 9 CS per minute up until he had like 120 CS at maybe, like 30 minutes into the game, and just if you give that to a Cassidy, he's so time dependent. Like the earlier the lot of ages comes in, the earlier all these other items get facilitating. And once PoE gets rolling on that Cassidy, at the end of the game, he was a full item ahead, if not more, on Hui.
Yeah.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, game 2 is getting ready right now. Origen leading 1-0. Don't forget, if you missed any of the moments we just talked about, you can go over to plays.tv, check out the highlights, check out the POV VODs. How are these players playing? What are they seeing on their screen? That's always interesting information. When we come back from the break, we will be going into the picks and bans of game number 2.